For more on the Korean Peninsula diplomacy, I'm joined by international security expert Jim Walsh. He's joining us from Boston. Of course, we have the phone call between Moon Jae-in and the U.S. president. South Korea's foreign minister here in Washington discussing the Inter-Korean summit next month. But let's talk a little bit about not just the activity, but this landscape, because Roe touched on it. You've got an outgoing Secretary of State. Looks like the National Security Advisor may go soon. You have the DPRK Special Envoy, Joseph Yoon, retired because he was frustrated. Victor Cha, who was going to be the ambassador to the ROK, got sideways with the administration. You've got all these key diplomatic posts either not filled or in a state of flux. Is this a good time for this meeting to take place?
Well, it certainly means that the U.S. anyway is going to have to do its homework. I would add to that list, Mark, that we have an acting Assistant Secretary for East Asia and the Pacific, not someone who's been confirmed. So there are a lot of missing holes here. But then again, this is a topic that's not new to Washington. I'm sure in the bowels of the State Department there are various policy papers that have been written. But I am a little concerned that we don't have an ambassador in South Korea, and that some of these offices continue to be unfilled as we have confirmation hearings about new people who are being proposed. But at the end of the day, frankly, what will matter most are those two men in that room in that minute, in that moment. If it goes well, all things are possible. If it goes poorly, unfortunately, all things are possible in the opposite direction. So do I wish we had a full staffed team that was prepared for this? Yes. Is May a rather, near date? Yes. But again, I think it really depends on Trump and Kim. That's what this is all going to be about.
China's dual suspension proposal, is that something that both sides could agree to, that could be a good first step? I know China's State Councilor Yang Jiechi is set to go to Seoul for 2 days of talks, March 28th.
Well, in some ways, I think that proposal, we've almost sort of blown past it. Why do I say that? The North Koreans allegedly told their South Korean interlocutors in Pyongyang that they were willing to freeze during negotiations, freeze their missile and nuclear tests. And Mr. Kim reportedly, Chairman Kim reportedly told his South Korean visitors that, hey, if military exercises have to go on, I can live with that. I understand. So in some ways, the proposals have sort of progressed past what was being discussed before. Obviously, the president today, in that short statement that was released by the White House, indicated that they're going to keep their maximum pressure campaign. We're going to have to see if that's rhetoric or whether that's true. But the main thing coming out of that, I saw two things in that statement coming out of the White House today. One is a reaffirmation that the meeting will take place. And there had been reporting that some parties were starting to get cold feet. So that seems to have thrown water on that. And then the other phrasing of it was, actions to lead to denuclearization. And that I may be overreading it, but that might suggest that all the parties realize this is a process and it's not going to be done overnight. Even if everyone wanted to denuclearize, you still couldn't do it overnight. And if they realize it's going to take steps and it's going to take a while and it's about the process, I think that's a healthy understanding of how these negotiations could go forward.
And Jim, where do you think the meeting will take place, and what's the most one can hope for these initial talks?
Well, where it will be, it's anyone's guess. It seems unlikely to me that President Trump would travel to Pyongyang or that Chairman Kim would come to the United States. That leaves Panmunjom at the DMZ border. I've been there myself physically, personally. That doesn't seem like the right setting either, if you ask me. It's small and doesn't lend itself, I think, to a meeting. So it might be in South Korea. It might be in one of the neutral countries, Geneva, where young Chairman Kim went to school. It could be, in one of the UN-affiliated cities. And the fact that the Swedes are intervening right now or having discussions with the DPRK's foreign minister makes Stockholm a possibility, a place where I have met North Korean officials and which is seen as a neutral site.
Oh, very interesting stuff. Jim Walsh, always a pleasure talking to you. Thanks so much.